Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer with Strategic Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, February 19th, so middle of the week. And I classified today theme of the day as I would call it a risk on day, even though that this afternoon was a little bit boring in terms of price action. Things kind of settled in for the day. Didn't really give back any major gains or anything like that. But I would classify this as a risk on day. A lot of momentum in some smaller groups, some groups like clean energy, which I'm going to talk about for a minute because I'm excited about that. Especially yesterday, was going through some charts after the close yesterday, and a couple of the positions that I have on. It's really nice to see. Groups that you've been in for a while just accelerate to the upside. So let's first talk about the S&P. I thought the price action in the S&P really gave you a good guide for kind of how to handle risk a little bit today. It's something that I do in the beginning of every day. I send out to members some charts using the market webs indicator, basically how to interpret the overall market, and I think it really helps to spot essentially where you necessarily don't want to be taking new positions or risk, right? I think that's one of the things that sometimes gets lost on Twitter is there's so many times people are posting option activity or charts and so forth, but there's so much more to it. Where you're establishing your positions during the day sometimes can really determine if you're hugely profitable for the day or just had a so-so day, right? So the first thing that I see on the S&P chart is we are no doubt a little bit extended. You could see that the price action is decently above the 5 period moving average, is decently above the 20. Sometimes when we do have this, we get a little bit of a check back. I think at this point, even though this little tiny volatility that we had in the beginning of the week, I still think we're due for that. But it doesn't mean I'm going to kind of continue to ride this trend. Just being smart along the way. That said, consolidation at this R1 Venom line, which is an extension off of the value area. The 1 hour chart and the 5 minute chart are really where I think analysis for the day kind of came into play. This is, by the way, where we had found support yesterday. Right midday yesterday, when it looked like volatility was trying to pick up to the downside, we ran right into support. And we bounced off of that decently. So again, I think that was number one, a good signal. That was this value area lines up, the bottom of value lined up pretty perfectly with last week's top of value. So some good support there. And then from there, we knew exactly where our resistance was for the day. And of course, we can get through these areas of resistance. They are more on shorter term, but again, still very good to look at. 33.83 was something that we got through. And then if I said that in the morning, that if we could get through that, then the next area to watch was on the 5 minute, and that's the virgin point of control that is right here. So we did manage to get above that, and again, this is the 5 minute time frame, so it's not major resistance. It's more like a speed bump, but we did hit this. We got above it, but notice that we settled right back into place for that. So was something that I mentioned in the trading room earlier was like, hey, this is a good place to kind of say, don't be greedy. Don't you could still have some trades on, but just be careful about adding new positions. Like sometimes, if you're watching the tape like I am all day long, there's always going to be new trades that hit the tape. There's always going to be something that's going to entice you to. But if you're watching the major levels in the indices, it will kind of tell you, hey, this is not the greatest place to add, a new trade. So that said, that's just quick analysis on the S&P. Again, it doesn't mean that we can't break out higher, but all in all, for risk management and trade management, these were some good levels to pay attention to. Okay, so the theme of the day that I saw, number one, momentum in a lot of things, right? Tesla got and Nvidia, two street high price targets, helped those names. What I thought was really interesting in the note that went out on Tesla for the price target raise was they did it not on the cars but on batteries and on solar, which you listen to the talking heads on TV, and they continue to make comparisons, Tesla versus GM and Ford and so forth. But last I checked, those companies are not making batteries and solar panels, which I think, if you look at what is going on within these groups, I think that is why Tesla is being so embraced. So, for example, look at the solar ETF. Look at what is happening here in the solar ETF. Now, keep in mind, Tesla's not in this ETF, as far as I can tell. At least the top components. I'll even show you the top components. So, what this means to me, right? Solar Edge, Enphase, which had huge days. Yeah, I don't see Tesla in here. So the point being is that Tesla is just part of the story. The major story is going on in solar, which has exploded higher. I think it's now up about 70% over the last year. These stocks, also wind. Look at what wind is doing. And if you start to break these companies down one by one, it's pretty impressive. There's also an ETF that kind of covers a little bit of both solar as well as wind, but it also has some other names in it. So if you look at even like Generac, is looking very strong. That was something that I caught last night in my analysis too. Just waiting for this chart to come up. But I mean, this looks pretty good. Now, not only do they make generators, but if you look to see what they've kind of changed their model a little bit too, and if you look at the description, right, this is coming up in some of these smaller names. Let's see. Where is it in here? Driven increased home generators, rising awareness about the need for residential backup power. There was another sentence in here. I know I saw it. Oh, here it is. I think of the strategy. Yep, here we go. As the world looks to clean energy, Generac has developed products that are greener and made key acquisitions that make energy consumption more efficient. So again, they're doing something a little bit different, right? And then if you look at, BLDP is one name that I haven't traded this name, but I mean, do you think this is happening by accident? That this name is going up as much as it has, or Plug, which saw crazy amount of call activity, right? This is all alternative energy stuff. Interesting. This to take it. Both of these took out VPOX to the upside, but crazy call buying almost took out the VPOC in this one. But just the momentum in these things is pretty sick. So I don't know how much longer this is going to go on for. They're probably due to rest, especially with Plug taking out that VPOC at 572. So again, in my opinion, all this option activity that we saw today, the technicals are going to outweigh speculative call buying, in my opinion. But some of these names, the option activity has been absolutely outrageous. Run was another one that we saw yesterday, which even shook off the downgrade that it got for the day. And this thing ended up 3.2%. Started the day down about 1 or 2%. So I think, without being political, someone said to me on Twitter, they're like, "Oh, it's because of this candidate, if they're doing this," and I'm like, I don't think that is it. I think there's more of a global awareness. Yes, the election and this year is going to be somewhat impactful, but keep in mind, last year, as much as President Trump has been talking about coal energy and natural gas and so forth, solar names were up last year too, and they were outperforming, traditional energy companies too last year. So again, I think this is, I think while it's probably in need of consolidation, I think this is something that's really interesting, and I think also the talking heads on financial media are still missing the boat on what is going on with Tesla. I think people are allocating and moving into clean energy names. So anyway, that's enough on this particular subject. Other names that saw some option activity, again, a lot of momentum in just other areas of the market. Some of the Chinese internet names saw some call buying right out of the gate today. Baba, JD.com, Sono saw repeat call activity. Pags looks like positioning around their earnings report. Neo is another name that has been seeing some call activity as well. Setup does not look bad there. and a number of other names, even gold and silver, actually did fairly well today. Aerospace and defense, utilities, REITs, and that's kind of why I call it more of a risk-on day, because your defensives did not participate in the day. And you know, my portfolio that you could see at any time, which is not option wise, but you can go to our TTG portfolio. You could see what we're doing in here. You could just bring up the link. But I'm now, look at how the blue line is crossing over the green. We are now outperforming very nicely the the S&P. So I'm very excited. Things that we have in there that are outperforming. Palladium. I do have the solar ETF that's in there, but I've got a number of other names that are doing pretty well. So I'm excited about that. All right, guys, that's it for the video. And again, you can basically, this is completely transparent. This portfolio, I tweet it out like once a week. As long as you have an account on this system, you could actually see the whole portfolio. So thanks for watching today's video. Have a great night, everybody, and see you tomorrow.